Now let's talk about China's ally and the United States' biggest rival right now. Here comes the diplomatic confrontation that could reshape the future of the entire Gulf nation. Iran has reportedly rejected the latest American peace proposal and instead it has issued a series of hardline demands that have stunned both Washington and Israel. And at the center of this crisis is just one location, the Strait of Hormuz. And if you do understand the energy politics, you must understand why this is so serious. The Strait of Hormuz, it is one of the world's most critical oil choke point. A massive percentage of global oil shipment, it passes through this narrow waterway every single day, which means any disruption over there, it immediately affects fuel prices, shipping costs, insurance market, and global inflation. In fact, according to reports, Iran is now demanding a new system of control over Hormuz that could potentially allow Tehran to regulate or maybe restrict major shipping movement. Alongside that, Iran is reportedly demanding sanction relief. In fact, release of frozen assets, an end to American naval presence in the Gulf, and guarantees against the future military action. And let me tell you, that's a lot. Washington, in the meantime, has already rejected these conditions as unacceptable. And that is where the danger begins because when diplomacy collapses, military pressure, it usually rises. The entire Gulf region, it has already witnessed years of tanker seizure, drone incident, naval confrontation, and attacks on oil infrastructure. Every time tensions rise around Hormuz, global market became nervous because the entire world economy still heavily depends on the stable Gulf energy flow. Here, Iran's demands, it also reveals something important about Tehran's current strategy. Well, Iran believes it holds leverage because of the geography. Hormuz gives Tehran a lot of influence over one of the most important trade arteries in the world. And during period of confrontation, Iran often uses that particular leverage to pressure the rivals economically as well as militarily. And now, negotiations appears deeply stalled. Trust between Tehran and Washington, it is extremely weak. Israel continues watching Iran's nuclear and missile activities very closely. If we talk about America, then American naval forces remain active across the Gulf. And every side appears increasingly unwilling to compromise anymore. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, analysts fear the Hormuz dispute, it could become the next major flashpoint in West Asia. Because if tension escalate over there, the consequences, it would not remain regional. Fuel prices across the world could spike. Shipping routes could face disruption. Military deployment could intensify rapidly. And once the global energy route it becomes part of a geopolitical conflict, then the entire world feels the impact. Now, moving on to the last segment of the show. Finally, tonight, a story that sounds almost unbelievable, but unfolded inside a real international passenger flight. A Qantas flight traveling from Melbourne to Dallas, it was forced to divert to Tahiti after a passenger allegedly became violent midair. The flight QF21, it had already been in the air for nearly 7 hours during its exhausting 18-hour journey when chaos suddenly erupted on board. Well, according to reports, the passenger appeared intoxicated and became increasingly aggressive towards the crew member and the fellow travelers. And then came the disturbing allegation. Reports say the passenger allegedly bit a flight attendant while the crew attempted to restrain him. In the meantime, videos uploaded online show the man stumbling out of the aircraft toilet while still adjusting his belt. Well, after that, he's also arguing very loudly with the staff and making bizarre comments about wanting a hazardous element. At one point, when crew member warned him to calm down, he reportedly responded aggressively and even threatened staff when they discussed restraining him. The whole situation became so serious that several passengers reportedly stood up to help the cabin crew control him. Now for a moment, can you imagine the atmosphere inside the aircraft? Families on board, children sitting nearby, hundreds of passengers trapped thousands of feet above the Pacific Ocean with nowhere to go. Inside an aircraft, even one violent passenger, it can quickly become a major safety threat because the environment it is so confined and so sensitive. Eventually, the aircraft diverted to Fa International Airport in Papeete, Tahiti, where local police boarded the plane. Later on, the footage showed the passenger restrained face down while the officers took control of the entire situation. The airlines later confirmed the individual had been banned from the airline forever. Well, the airline has also issued a strong statement saying the safety of passengers and crew remains its highest priority and that there is zero tolerance for threatening behavior on board flight. And this particular incident, it also reflects a growing global problem. Air rage incidents have increased significantly in recent years. Airlines around the globe are reporting more cases about aggressive behavior, verbal abuse, in fact, confrontation on board aircraft. Long haul travel itself creates enormous stress, exhaustion, in fact, confined spaces, delay, anxiety, emotional pressure. In the meantime, cabin crew today, they are increasingly being forced to act not only as hospitality staff but also a crisis manager and frontline security person. Because once an aircraft door closes, there is no easy exit. A plane at 35,000 feet becomes a controlled environment where one passenger's behavior, it can affect the safety and mental state of everybody on board. And tonight's incident is another reminder of just how quickly normal travel can change into a complete chaos.